I'm Christopher Lara with TheeDigital, joined by Keri Giordano, our Director of Operations, and Rob Delory, all-around SEO enthusiast. Today, we're going to go over website audits and what are some of the things we look for when auditing a website. Keri, Rob, thank you for joining me.
Hey, Christopher.
Thanks for having us.
Why would someone audit their website? What is the point of one?
Well, if I could jump in, Keri, if that's all right.
Yes, please do.
It really comes down to what is it that you're looking for your website to do and what are you auditing it for? And what I mean by that is, are you looking for technical elements for search engine optimization? Why is it not performing as well in the actual Google search results? Or are you looking at your website from the standpoint of, hey, I get a lot of traffic to the website, but why is it not converting as much? Why are people not taking the actions that I want them to? So it really starts with understanding, as you're approaching the project, of looking at it from the standpoint of what is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? And that will lead you down the road of how you do or why you would conduct a specific type of audit.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Rob. When I look at a website, if a client comes to us looking for an audit, um, I'll look at a site and try to put on my user cap and try to think of myself as, if I were a user coming to this website and I knew nothing about this company, and I went to the home page or any page on the website, because you don't always enter a website from the home page, remember? Um, I if I go to that site, what do I know what I'm looking at? Like, what company is this? What do they do? Is this an e-commerce store? Is it, and like if you're an e-commerce store and that's not obvious when I first come to the site, then that's an issue. Or if I'm looking for a plumber and I come to your site and it's not obvious that you do plumbing, then that's an issue. So I just like, that's kind of the first thing I look for. Is it obvious what the point of the site is and what they do?
And from a usability side of things, I agree with you, Keri. You really do want to start thinking more in terms of uh, the visitor, their mindset when they show up. You've been looking at your website for a long time, but as you're saying, is it obvious? It really is remarkable to look at some of the websites and then have conversations with the person who owns the website and determine, well, a lot of the things that you want people to know about your business aren't even on the front page, the really primary things about your company. And it's always surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think as business owners, we're really proud of our logo and really proud of our products and all of our accomplishments and things like that. But when a user comes to your site for the first time, they don't really care about that stuff. If you have a really beautiful abstract logo, but they don't know what you do or what you can offer to them, then they're not going to care. They're just going to bounce. So, yeah, I think it's really important to keep the user in mind, that users you only have like 3 seconds of their attention, so they need to get to your site and know what's in it for me. What is it worth my time? Because time is so valuable and people are so distracted. So you need to serve whatever need they have as soon as they get to your site in some way, and maybe it's a call to action that answers the question that most people ask when they're coming to your site. Or you know also, is it easy for them to call you or contact you if they have a question? There's nothing more frustrating than going to a website, being really interested, and then not being able to find or figure out how to contact these people and if you want their service or their product.
And sometimes it's as simple as the phone number. So many websites, for some reason, let's go ahead and put it on the contact page. For me, why wouldn't you have it on every page? Why wouldn't you have it predominantly displayed at the top? Again, if that is important to your company, there are some very few companies, but e-commerce, for example, the phone number isn't the priority for them. But a lot of service companies, I'm really surprised every time I go through websites how often they'll go ahead and just have one instance of the phone number on their website and it's in small type somewhere on the contact page. It's one of those first things that you look at and say, well, here's a big opportunity.
Right. And there's nothing more frustrating than finding the contractor that you need on your mobile device, and you click on their phone number in the teeny tiny print in the footer and it doesn't call. It's like, for the user experience, please put your phone number in a button, and so that they can call and immediately call the person and not have to copy and paste it. I mean, a lot of people don't think about that, but since we, do this every day, that's something that we look for when we audit a website.
I'll take it even one step further, Keri, because even some of the small mobile browsers are getting pretty good at identifying that this is a phone number. But how many websites I've gone through and the phone number is part of an image? Okay, I can read it, but you're right, it's
Right?
not mobile
Oh, that's
friendly.
terrible.
It's still out there. I've still seen that happening out there. So yes, when you do and conduct a website audit, those are the types of things you're looking for. Okay, fine. The text isn't in an image; it's just sitting there on the website. However, if it's not actually click to call, the technical term for it, if it's not click to call, you're missing out on the opportunity of seeing how oftentimes people are actually clicking on it. Because you're right, if somebody goes ahead and sees the text there and the web browser for your device is picking up on it, it still doesn't mean that you're getting that information in your analytics. You got the call,
Hmm.
but you don't know where these calls are coming from. So again, that's where we start digging down into in a website audit, determining all of these things.
Right. Yeah, some other things. So that's kind of the first pass that I do on a website audit, is just kind of, think of the user and think of just the user experience, just basically the basics. But then, you dig a little deeper and we start looking into page speed. There's several tools that we look at to see, um, is the site loading more than a second or two? What is it getting stuck on? Maybe you have a plugin that's out of date that's making the website, choke and keep trying to access a script that doesn't exist anymore. Because your site can be, um, great when you launch it, and then 6 months later, there's some kind of code change in a plugin that you're not even aware of. Particularly, in a word, any of the CMS sites that have plugins, those plugins are developers are all over the world and are making code changes every day to improve their plugins. And so your site could be fine one day, and then next week, all of a sudden it's slow. So we run it through a tool to identify what could be causing the hangup. Maybe there's some images that are too large. There's a lot of simple things that you can do to make a site faster and easier to navigate. Another thing that's been coming up a lot lately is ADA compliance. Um, so, there were laws passed, a couple of years ago, and it's taken a little while for the websites to catch up. Everybody knows that, retail businesses have to have ramps for a wheelchair, and there was a time where people had to adjust the sinks in the bathrooms, and that was a big change. And now websites, we're discovering there's some basics that websites needs to have, so people who are visually impaired can see, whether it's color blindness, or if they have used a screen reader um, to read off what's on the page. So there's a lot, and a lot of people are just not even aware that that's a thing. And there's, if you, federal agencies, and anybody who services a federal agency has to be ADA compliant, and that's including their website. And I'm not a lawyer, but that's what I hear, and that's what we do. But it's actually becoming more and more important for all websites, and in some countries, it's actually the standard that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, they have to be ADA compliant. And it might be a different term over there, but here, I think, in the upcoming years, it's coming. So we need to keep that in mind. And some of the things you can do to help people access your website is to make sure that you have good color contrast. You don't put red text on a blue background where you can barely distinguish uh, the difference between the colors. Make sure the font sizes are large enough. And one thing that you might not even think of is alt tags on your images. There's actually some code you can put in all of your images that describes what the image is. So when a visually impaired person is looking at a web page and it's reading off all the content on the page, when it gets to a picture, if you don't have an alt tag on that picture, it'll just say image. But if you have an alt tag on there, it might say girl with red balloon, or at least it tells them what is in the image. So that is something that we would look for in an audit as well, if all of the images have alt tags.
And for the ADA compliance, I mean, it is a law that's out there, and you are starting to see, quite frankly, lawsuits have been coming up
Mm-hmm.
over the last few years for different organizations that are out there. So it's something that people, you're right, have to start becoming mindful of these things and making sure that they're at least taking care of very simple things as you're describing, because yeah, I think it's going to be a bigger topic moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And there's different laws out there. There's the it's not just the ADA laws, but there's also
GDPR.
well, yep, there's the privacy laws. Oh, the discrimination laws too. There's there's different laws into play. So you read the information on one law and you think, oh, well, I don't have to do it because I'm not in that industry. But you might not realize that there's not like if you're in the healthcare field, even if you have nothing to do with federal agencies, it still could be that you're discriminating. If the only way you offer appointments, for instance, is through your website, then you're basically discriminating people who can't schedule online if you don't make the scheduling accessible to somebody who's visually impaired. That's just one example.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but if you, it's an interesting topic. If you, there's a lot of lawsuits out there, and the people can get you from different angles. So it's just best to just be mindful of, and it's also just being a good citizen to make your website accessible to everybody.
Right.
You know.
I was wondering, is there a frequency in which you guys recommend that a business get their website audit, or are there certain situations in which one is recommended?
For me, I don't try to burden businesses too much with things like that. So I can honestly say if you're at least doing it once a year, that's probably good practice. If you're a company and your website is getting massive amounts of traffic and you rely upon it to be able to go ahead and provide leads or sales or whatever the case is, it really comes down to how much of a priority is the website to your business. I can think of some very large companies that probably are auditing it only because they have full marketing teams that's all that they're doing today. They are in essence running audits on theirs constantly, just because they've got an entire team that surrounds it. But for most of your small business owners, it's probably a good idea. Right at the beginning of the year, it's usually a good time. Getting ready for the next year, evaluating your content, running a website audit, checking in on those things. That's pretty good rule of thumb if you ask me, which you did.
Yeah, I would agree. But I would say, just to expand slightly, if your business completely depends on your website, then I would do it more often, maybe quarterly. And if your business is completely web based, hopefully you have an IT person or some kind of team that is maintaining your website on a regular basis anyway. But I would say maybe quarterly at minimum.
I mean, honestly, some businesses don't change a letter on their website in a year. So,
Right, right.
I mean, it's still a good idea to do the audit anyways, because, you may not be up to date with best practices, things of that sort. But it really is a good idea to at least put it on a schedule of some sort. And you're right, Keri. For the more a company depends upon it, the more it should be analyzed.
Let's say I'm a small business owner and I don't want to work with an agency, and I just want to kind of lightly self audit a website myself, what are some of the things that I would look for?
Well, again, are we talking about from an SEO standpoint? Are we talking about from a conversion standpoint? You gave the example.
What would be just one thing that you recommend someone look for when self auditing their website? Um, One example that I think of is the small business owner that had their family member perhaps update the website, and unbeknownst to them, the site has been made no index,
Yeah.
so search engines can't even crawl them.
Okay.
We've definitely had business owners come to us before, because all of a sudden they don't understand what's going on.
So,
Uh,
so it is a matter of SEO we want to talk about right now. Yeah, and that's
I
fine.
think as a business owner, that's the whole purpose of your site, right? Is to get found. Yeah.
Google your company. So, like,
Right,
sometimes,
right.
yeah,
let's take step one. What is Google showing up for your company name? Okay, great. Now I can go ahead and look at that and see how the web presence is. Then go ahead and Google whatever your main service or product or whatever it is that you think you should be ranking for. Very simple to do. Google that and see if you're showing up for that. And I say, see if you're showing up for that. You know, again, going into a website audit, there's things to keep in mind that if you've Googled your own company enough times, you know, Chrome and the rest of them already know what you're trying to go ahead and find, and they may put it up a little bit higher. That's when you want to go ahead and search from other browsers. But it really comes down to the first thing to do is just start Googling it and seeing how the search results are representing your company. Probably the second thing that I would do, no matter what the website was, is I would run a quick mobile friendly test through Google as well. If you Google that, Google mobile friendly test, they'll come up with their own little thing. You put in your website address, and 30 seconds later, it'll give you a yes or no. You are mobile friendly according to the search engines. What that looks like is a different story. You'll be able to visibly see that, but at least you know you're compliant with them, and that really makes a difference not just for search engines, but it also makes a difference on is it easy for people to look at on their phone. And I'm on a roll here, but again, a lot of people will go ahead and look at their website on their computer all the time because that's where they are, not really realizing that 75% of visitors are visiting their website on cell phones. So, sometimes people just don't think outside of what they're used to doing themselves.
Yeah, I would to expand on that, I would say whatever it is you want your clients to do on your website, whether it's call them, call you, or submit that contact form, or buy a product, or request a consultation, go through the motions on your phone and on your computer, and maybe ask a friend to do the same and make sure that everything happens that's supposed to. Like, when you filled out the form, do you get the notification as both the user and the website owner? And if you try to call, does it connect, or is it not going to the right place? I would just whatever your user flow is, or your desired user flow, make sure that it's able to happen from beginning to end and that you're notified about it.
And Keri, you are 100% correct. I can't tell you how many people I've sat down with, and well, how many contact forms do you get? Well, I don't know. And then we go in and we find out that the contact forms were never coming to them. And oh my goodness, that was something so basic. It's as simple as just put in your name and info, submit it, and see what happens. Maybe it's not even going to your email address, and you've been missing out on opportunities. But you're right; it's those simple little things. If it's an e-commerce website, go ahead and make a purchase and send something to your house. A small purchase, but make
Yeah.
sure it's not just the website, but that the whole process is set up. I know we're stepping outside of the website, but really that's just the first step sometimes in all of this. What was the movie there with Tom Hanks and Castaway? I think it started out him working for FedEx, and in the very beginning, he shows up and he had sent a package to the facility itself, and he opened it up and he had a box with a timer on it showing how long it took for it to make it there. Sometimes you have to utilize the actual product or service that you are providing on the website to get that full understanding of how it's working through your business. I hope I explained that okay.
Yeah, that was great, Rob.
I think we achieved our goal to explain why someone would want to audit the website and what the point of one is, as well as give some tips on how to self audit yourself if you don't want to use a professional agency. Any last words you guys want to share before we say goodbye?
As far as all of that's concerned, sometimes it's as simple as just taking a look at your website. Does it look outdated? Are you in an industry that your competitors are really keeping up to date, and that makes a difference to the visitors to your website, to your customers? Does your website provide information that is useful to visitors? We can get into technical details of website audits. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a look at it as a whole. Is this a useful resource? And that'll be my final thing right there.
Yep, and call us at The Digital if you'd like a more technical SEO audit.
Yeah, if you have a business and you're looking for a website audit, get in touch with our web experts at TheeDigital.com for a free website audit. Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.